Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll cover all the home teams, Saints, LSU, Tulane, even the Pelicans. There's some news there as well, so we'll get into all of that. We got one of the best we have. A good friend of mine. We've been friends for a long time. He's done a great job. Again, now sports director over at Fox 8 Sports. Have you checked all the programming out at Fox Sports? Every single night you've got a great sports programming. And of course, he's Juan Kincaid. Juan, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. Glad to be inside for AC.
Yeah,
thanks for getting the AC fixed.
Yeah, that's right. Well, when I pulled up, I saw an electric company's truck out front, and I asked one of our assistant directors when I walked in. I said, "Are we okay?"
Yeah.
Because I didn't know, but yeah, we're okay. Thank God, AC.
Absolutely.
Everywhere. I mean, again, everybody over 100-degree temperatures. But first of all, let's talk about the program at Fox 8. You guys have done such a great job, and people don't understand. This is labor intensive.
It is.
Every single day to have to produce new programs, come up with new content, video, everything else that goes into what Fox 8 is doing on a night in, night out basis. It's not easy, but they do a great job in bringing it to you. Tell us about all the great programming.
Well, I mean, it's football season.
Right.
And so we pride ourselves on giving all the fans out there, whether you're Saints fans, Pelicans fans, LSU, Tulane, Nichols, Southeastern, we pride ourselves in being able to cover all those different teams and covering it to the fullest. And do we fall short on some things? Absolutely, because it's hard to get everything all the time. But we just have shows every day except for Saturday. Additional 30-minute shows, except for outside the newscast, except for Saturday. So it's what we've become used to, and it's what our public and viewership have become used to seeing. Is that there's always something dedicated, especially to the Saints during the football season. They've
done a great job, and again, it's pretty much every night. And look, they got football on Saturday. Otherwise, you probably have a show on Saturday. But you still have tailgate in the morning.
If they can sell it, they will sell it.
They will sell it. That's right. So again, 10:35. Pretty much Monday through Friday.
Yep.
The prep show will be starting soon. Again,
prep show starts in doing a mini prep show this Friday, but then the prep show starts for real next week. And of course, Fox 8 Live Tailgate will have a pregame show for the game on Sunday, this Sunday at 6 o'clock against the Texans. So we'll have that tailgate to be our first tailgate of the season. And of course, in 2 weeks after that, we start Tailgate for Real, which is our pregame show before Saints games every Sunday or every day before the game.
Right.
It's a lot, but it's okay. If you enjoy doing it, like you enjoy doing what you're doing,
sure,
it's not work.
Yeah, no, it isn't. But at the same time, look, we and I were talking. Look, we've been friends for a long time.
A long time.
Okay, I was talking about the birth of his daughter. His daughter's going to be a senior this year. Okay, and let me tell you something.
Actually, she would tell you she is a senior.
She is a senior.
She was a senior when they changed the rings last year.
So she's a senior.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look. In this business, you're working nights, you're working weekends.
Yeah.
Again, you got to find vacation time. Look, I know a lot of families out there have the same thing. It's tough. This dude's been, again, Daddy of the Year. Always there for his daughter. And like a lot of us, you have to try to be able to organize your time here.
You got to balance
and it's tough when you got to produce a news sportscast and then a show nightly. But you still make it work.
It's a challenge. We have news 4 to 6 every day. And then, of course, after that, we usually have our show tapings Monday through Friday, I guess it is. Of course, the high school show is usually live, so it's a lot going on, But we have the biggest staff, I think, and don't quote me on this. I think we have the biggest staff in the region, about 7-8 people now, and so if you got that big of a staff, you've got to be able to show that you need that big of a staff, and we've done a good job of doing that with all the programming we do.
And the podcast is also.
Sean Vazan and Vasilios have been doing a great job. We're at episode 418. I remember when it started.
Yeah,
it's basically being done in our sports office in the little corner, and it really hit off really well. And what's also hit really well and jumped through the roof is our YouTube channel. It's ridiculous. Everything. Listen, this community, they want everything they can get Saints all the time, and you can just they gobble it up, and so we provide it as much as we can.
Great job again, from the podcast to the nightly shows to the sportscast, and of course you're home for the New Orleans Saints. Again, Fox 8 Sports. All right, let's get into it. There's so much to talk about. First of all, Steve Sidwell, you knew him. Again, he passes, 78 years old. A guy that was in Jim Mora's staff, defensive coordinator. I saw Leslie's posted today about being the linebackers coach. I thought, I'm trying to think, I thought it was another coach of the linebackers coach, but nevertheless, he was one of the better coaches in the history of the Saints. We talk about assistant coach Steve Sidwell. He
was, and I think he's a gentleman that's definitely going to be missed. I mean, he's a coach that was with this franchise for a while, and something about this community, they remember the people that came in the past all the time, like they're here now, and so I'm not. I was not here when Sidwell was here because I got here in 2001, but I do know of him, and I know how much he's revered in this community, and I know he's going to be missed.
Right, and of course his son went on to again worked the athletic department at Tulane. I think he's still in sports today. Again, Steve Sidwell. Look, New Orleans did no winners until Mora, Finks got here, and of course Sidwell was really the architect of that defense that was had the dome patrol, which was absolutely outstanding.
Which to this date there has not been a Saints defense to match that level, especially at the linebacker position. Right. And I'm not sure there's been a linebacking group in NFL that has matched what he put on the field.
I agree, and I don't think when you go what those four guys did as a tandem, as a team. It was amazing from, Ricky Blitzen, Swilling. I mean, y'all have Swilling a lot.
Yeah, Vaughn Johnson.
Again, also Vaughn Johnson, who was an incredible player. And, of course, Sam Mills, Hall of Fame.
Eric, it confuses me why that group, as revered as they are, not just in New Orleans, but around the NFL. I remember talking to Michael Irvin when Ricky Jackson went in. We were talking in Miami, and we were just talking about, he goes, Juan, he says, there was never a better linebacking group. When you went on the field against the Saints, you knew that linebacking group was going to tear your head off. It baffles me to this day how those four guys aren't in the Hall of Fame together.
I agree.
It doesn't make any sense.
Right, and I'll take it a step further. A statue of those four guys in front of the dome.
Absolutely.
Should happen. I mean, again, when you have that type of players that have not just the best in the history of your organization, but the best maybe in the history of the game.
Well, it should be Steve Gleason, Dome Patrol, and Drew Brees.
Right.
There have been no three group of people that have had more of an influence on this franchise on the field than those three.
Right, and I think it should happen. And then, of course, again, and they got to complete that in that Ring of Honor as well. Again, we're putting those guys up there. Preseason game number 2. I don't think people want to read too much into preseason, especially when you're playing a lot of backups. The thing that is the carryover for me, and I've talked about a lot this week on the radio show, Juan, is undisciplined. The penalties. And I know a lot of people want to completely come out and say, well, again, it's a lot of backups that we're playing, et cetera, et cetera. This has been something that this team has dealt with over the last few years, going back to the last couple of years of Peyton, into Allen's first year in his tenure. I said on the radio show the other day, I can remember a team under Drew Brees, or teams under Drew Brees, that did not hurt themselves with penalties, that you knew that eventually the other team was going to make a stupid mistake, they were going to have a pre-snap penalty, and this team was going to pounce on it and take advantage of it. It has flipped now in recent years. This is not as disciplined a team as we've seen in the past. There seems to be an emphasis on this year with Dennis Allen, but yet we're still seeing these pre-snap penalties, the missed assignments, and again, things that will end up hurting you in the regular season. Give me your thoughts on what you've seen, and is this something they can change going into the season?
Well, you know, I'll go back to our Black and Gold Review show on Monday night. Deuce McAllister's on that show, and Sean Bazan. Deuce said succinctly, and I agree, that if they don't get it fixed, the players that are making the mistakes are not going to be playing in the NFL. Because other teams aren't going to take a chance on a player that lacks discipline.
Right.
The pre-snap penalties, 4 in the game against Houston. Against the Chargers. 222 penalties in 2 games. That's ridiculous. And there's no excuse for it. And I agree, Dennis Allen's saying, you know, the pre-snap penalties can't happen. That's just a lack of focus. But you're right, it is a problem they've had since Dennis Allen's been coaching this team.
Even go back and really a couple of
and going back, I'm going back before Sean Payton. So right now it's just lip service that Dennis is giving us. Either you're going to fix it or you're not, because so far you haven't shown that you can fix it. This is a problem that's been there since you've been there. Now, granted, you inherited this problem from Sean Payton, but I feel like back in the Payton days, you had more years where you didn't have these problems than you did. And towards the tail end of his career as the Saints head coach, you did. They've got to get it fixed, because it doesn't matter how much talent you have on this team, offense and defense, these plays are going to get called back because of the bonehead mistakes. And I agree that the majority of the problems are happening with the backup players, but you're going to need some of these backups to help you in the regular season. I mean, Alvin Kamara is going to miss that first 3 games. Likely going to miss Marcus May for a couple of games. You're going to have some injuries, offensive, defensive line, and those backups that are making the mistakes now are going to be called upon to play perfect football, or as perfect as you can get, close to perfect as you can get in the regular season. Who's saying they're not going to make the mistakes then? I don't know. But they've got to get that fixed. That is the glare. No matter how much good you did in that game against the Chargers, it is overshadowed by the mistakes you made. And you can see it on Dennis Allen's face on the sideline. It's like he's looking up in the sky looking for answers to that. And the answers aren't up there. They've got to figure that part out about this team.
And you almost wonder at some point, again, have you drafted, have you signed just undisciplined players? Now, again, I get some of those guys with backups, but we saw this with starters as well. They got to figure it out, as you mentioned, because the NFL game is a game of attrition now. You're going to have injuries. You just hope you don't have a lot of injuries at one particular position, which has plagued this team throughout the last couple seasons. But this to me has to be issue 1 going into the regular season. You didn't clean it up yet. You mentioned 222 yards of penalties over the last two games. Can't have that.
No, you can't. I mean, you're not going to win football games.
Right.
You're going to lose more than you win. And you're going to be fighting against the other team and fighting against the referee as well. They've got to figure this part of the game out. And it should not be hard to figure out. You're professionals. You know, as long as you've been playing football, high school, college, XFL, NFL, USFL, whatever league you're playing in, the penalties make the difference in the game. The less you have, penalties and turnovers, have less turnovers, create more. Have less turnovers, have less penalties, create more turnovers, get the other team to have more penalties. That's how you win football games a lot of time. If the 2 teams are even, ability-wise, so it's something they got to get fixed going forward here.
And Juan, correct me. I think this team has upgraded their roster on paper. I think on paper they're a little better than they were last year. I just don't know, again, if you can overcome the penalties. And then what we've seen over the last few years, rash of injuries that keep guys out for long periods of time, and then in a lot of cases, kind of decimating a position group. On the question of, is this a better roster than they were last year?
I think in some areas it is. I think in some areas it's a question mark. I think in the cornerback position they are an upgrade because they have better players. They have players that have gotten better, that have gotten older. I think Alante Taylor's going to be a really good player, but where do you play him at? He's not comfortable in the slot, but that may be where he has to be to get him on the field. I think defensive line is a wait and see, although they played well. They played better than I thought many people have expected would in these preseason games. Offensive line, I don't know, because you're dealing with injuries there. Trevor Penning, from what Deuce McAllister is telling me and what we're seeing, he's a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker.
Yes.
You got to protect Derek Carr's blind side. Can he do that at an NFL level? We shall see. He's going to find out this year quickly. Linebacker, you've gotten older. Demario Davis hasn't played in the preseason game, and I doubt he will play. You don't need to see him in the preseason game, but I need to see him on the field. Right. As Sean Payton used to say, I don't see it all the time, I just need to see it. Demario Davis, Father Time catches up to all of us, and it's catching up to him. Running back position, I'd like to think you've improved there with the kid out of TCU. Receiver, I think they've got 3 good receivers and then 3 question marks. I think if you look at the one position where I think they have improved, I think it's a tight end.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Juwan Johnson is going to be fantastic. I think he's going to really do well with Derek Carr because wherever Derek Carr has been, which is in Vegas, his best receiver was always his tight end. His most trusted person always his tight end. So I think Juwan Johnson is going to benefit from there. Michael Thomas, you don't know about him yet. He's still building up to the season. Chris Olave is going to be fantastic. Rashid Shaheed hasn't played. You know, so I think there's positions where you've gotten better, but I think there's also some positions where you have big question marks. But again, if they don't get the penalties fixed, all those positions are mute. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I do want to talk about offensive line. The only guy I would play this week, and I would not play the starters. I know that they're going to. I don't know if they've announced that yet or today or not. Would be Trevor Penning. He needs the time on task. I think what you may end up having to do if he doesn't have the ability to go one-on-one with some of the better defensive ends out there in terms of protecting the passer, they're going to have to give him help. They're going to have to put the tight end on that side. They're going to have to end up getting chipping with a running back to try to be able to help him. The question right now is, again, Pete Hurst. Who's the starter there? Can you trust Pete for a season? Is Hurst better as a guy coming off the bench to be able to fill in instead of, doing the musical chairs that you've done in the past with the offensive line? Talk about that side of the offensive line. Who do you like better, Hurst or Pete? And again, when you look at this offensive line as a whole, the other part of it is how much has Ruiz gotten better? That when those 5 go out there, that you hope that again those guys are again a tough team to be able to deal with.
Well, I think Ruiz has got better from the year before to last year. I think he showed some promise. He grew as a player. I expect him to get even better this year. Does he start? I'm not sure. We'll see. In terms of Hurst and Pete, I don't have a problem with Pete being your starter because I don't expect him to play all 17 weeks. He hasn't shown us he can do that. He goes down and he's out for a couple weeks. So I like the fact that they have James Hurst there as the backup. The question marks are, you don't have a lot of depth in an offensive line. A lot of NFL teams don't have a lot of depth on the offensive line. Those 5 starters are what you have, and you have guys as a drop-off after that. You're going to have to give Trevor Penning some help on the left side until you don't have to anymore. And I think he's going to grow into the position. I think he's a really good player that's going to learn the position quickly, and I think he's going to have to.
Like you said, pancaking guys all over the field. I mean, you love to see that. Yeah, you're going to run to his side a lot, and that's okay. But he's got to be able to protect Derek Carr's backside. I think the Saints understand that part. You know, they're smarter in football than we are. They know that. The other part is, again, who are your backups? Landon Young was a guy they kept last year.
Saldiveri's there.
Saldiveri's going to have to stay.
Throckmorton, he's there. I think they'll keep guys that they know. Saldiveri they know. Throckmorton they know. You know, when Sean Payton was here, the one thing they always did a really good job at is finding those diamonds in the rough as backup offensive linemen. And I don't feel like they've lost that because I think they've still got a good front office. But it just feels like it's thinner this year than it has been in years past.
But it feels like that across the league as well.
It does.
I was looking after the Charger game. Okay, let me look at the veterans that have not been signed yet. They're still out there free agent. There's nobody. Okay, there's nobody.
No.
you may be looking at that last cut, but then you know teams are not getting rid of solid offensive linemen.
No, they're not, because there's not many out there.
There's just not. So again, you have to develop them. And in the past, they developed them pretty well. Under Peyton, they just haven't. I mean, look, Throckmorton seems like he's taken a step back based on what I've said in preseason. Again, Landon Young has been hurt, so you don't know what you have there. You thought a guy with that veteran Max Garcia coming in that he might be a guy that might be a keeper, but I'm going to be honest with you, hasn't been too impressive. So again, where do you go? Storm Norton, another guy again that you thought, okay, he's Ramchek's backup, but you know, again, at the end of the day, is somebody younger? I mean, Saliveri, you got to wait on him. So there is an issue in that when you talk about who are going to be your 2 or 3 backups on the offensive line. There's no doubt.
Well, I think one thing that's going to help you, and like, this is no secret for the Saints. Every team's going to be looking at this. When those cuts come after this last game, you're going to see what cuts are out there. And that's when your scouting department comes into play and says, you know what, we've been scouting this guy for a while. We know that he's better than what we have. I think the Saints are going to be making some more moves once its final cut is made.
I will say this. I said this on the radio show this week. Michael Parrington, who's the pro personnel director, has done a great job this year in again plugging holes with vets. You know, Jamal Williams coming over, even Jalen Smith this late coming in, and I think he solidifies that linebacker spot.
He does. He does. I mean, listen, when you lost the linebacker that you lost going to Atlanta, I think that's another. Pete Werner's great. Demario Davis has been great for years, but again, he's looking a little longer in the tooth right now. And Pete Werner hasn't been able to stay on the field, even though it's a tackling machine. They needed some depth there, and I think Jalen Smith is a dog.
Me too.
I think he's going to be a guy that's going to play a lot more than we expect him to play this year, and be a contributor in that linebacking core.
And he's been a captain. He's going to be a leader in that locker room as well.
He is.
Okay, now they got leaders there, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But again, he'll be a leader in that locker room. You mentioned wide receiver. Interesting there, because you mentioned Thomas. Got to see how what type of player he's going to be. Olave, we expect him to take the next step. Shaheed has been hurt. I question whether they're going to start him off returning punts and kicks because of the groin injury. You don't want him to re-injure that. A.T. Perry has really shown something in the preseason. Again, is he going to get separation against number 1 corners? Is he going to be able to make those contested catches against some of the better players?
A.T. Perry?
Yeah, A.T. Perry. That's going to be a question going forward.
Yeah, but the thing about A.T. Perry, Eric, he's not going against your number 1 corner.
Right.
If you're
but I'm saying if there's injuries.
If there's injuries, okay. So that would mean you'd have to have Chris Olave getting injured and Mike Thomas getting injured and then Rashid Shaheed getting. I mean, I see what you're saying. I think A.T. Perry is a guy that can benefit from. So a lot of these receivers are going to benefit from what Derek Carr likes to do best, which is find the tight end.
True.
That's where they're going to benefit. No longer are you having teams double up on Michael Thomas, because he's not the player he used to be. So, but maybe he can become close to that once again because he's not being doubled. Juwan Johnson should feast in this offense. I don't think there's anybody. Alvin Kamara out of the backfield is not getting double teamed now, because he's your only weapon. What's the biggest difference with this offense this year is you don't have that one guy that teams can say, we'll take this person out. That offense can't beat us like they could last year. They took Olave out. There's nobody else that's dangerous to you. Not with Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston throwing the ball to you. With Derek Carr now, he loves his affinity for the tight ends. Kamara out of the backfield. You got 3 or 4 receivers that can catch the ball, that can be threats. I think that gives the Saints an advantage now. It's all one-on-one. So I think a guy like A.T. Perry will benefit from having all these weapons around him and not having the pressure of saying, you got to be our number 2 guy now.
Right. Much like we saw with Marquez Callaway a few years ago.
Absolutely, yeah.
But you just made a great point that I had not heard anyone make in this market. Michael Thomas, now one-on-one. His whole career he's been double teamed. If you're in a situation now with Olave and the weapons they could put out there, again, Jimmy Graham in the red zone.
You like your chances.
That's a great point, because again, now Michael Thomas might not be the same player, but now he's playing he's only going up against a corner instead of going to corner and safety.
And Michael Thomas is going to slant him to death.
Right.
I mean, they were talking about at practice yesterday how he was slant left, slant right, left all day long, and he's still got that ability. Michael Thomas has never been the guy that's going to beat you deep on a 40-yard run. That's not going to happen. But he's going to get open, and he's strong. He's still physical. I just think this offense is in a really good position right now. I think they're going to miss Alvin Kamara. I really do. I'm not sure Kendra Miller is he's not going to provide what Alvin provides. No. Jamal Williams is not going to provide what Alvin provides. Alvin's a different kind of player, sure. And they're going to miss that. But I do think they have enough weapons on this offense to combat not having him.
Is Kirkwood and Smith, are they on this roster? Are they your 6th receiver?
Kirkwood is. I don't think Traquan Smith is. Okay. I don't think Traquan Smith makes it.
Who's that 6th receiver then?
So I think it's A.T. Perry, Kirkwood, and the guy's name is
Shaq Davis?
Shaq Davis. I love his size.
Okay.
I love his size. I just think if those guys could, Traquan's unique skill set is he's a really good blocker. Right. Who catches the ball every now and then. He's not drawing a double team.
He does all the dirty work.
Yeah, he does the dirty work. But you can get that in Keith Kirkwood now. And I think Shaq Davis is a guy.
You think it'll be one or the other? You think it'll be Kirkwood?
I think Kirkwood makes his team. Okay. I feel like the coaching staff trusts him more.
Yeah. I think that they may put Smith on PUP.
Yeah, probably so.
Or maybe put him on injured reserve since he's been injured, and put him on after the first cut so he has the ability to come back.
But there's this Lynn Bowden too. I mean, he may be a guy.
And Kirkland, who's really showed out. Yeah. Okay, both those guys can return punts.
Yeah, but I don't think Kirkland's going to. I just think it's going to be a numbers game. Right. He may make the practice squad.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if he even ever gets called up. Right. As talented as he is.
Right.
And the thing, he can do so many different things.
Right. I do think that again, Bowden and Kirkland have a chance to get on the practice squad. All right, you mentioned running back. I do want to discuss running back because we're going to take a little break and then when I come back, I want to talk about the defense. Darrell Williams got hurt this week.
Groin injury.
They hurt him. Talk about Merriweather, Miller, Williams, without a Kamara. And do you think Merriweather makes the active roster, or is he a guy that ends on the practice squad?
Oh man, that's tough because I think they really liked.
Me too.
Yeah,
I think you got to like his size, his ability to be able to catch. Can he block? Can he protect the quarterback? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, Darrell Williams was a guy that's been in the league for a while now. Everyone knows him at LSU from this area. I mean, he's good size.
Yes.
But him injuring and growing, that kind of hurts his situation right now. I think Merriweather ends up making the practice squad.
Me too.
But I think not having Alvin Kamara, it's not just a normal running back.
No.
All he gives you, runs between the tackles, get outside, a mismatch on the linebackers. Another really good option for Derek Carr to throw the ball to, and those yards after catch, those yak yards, fantastic. I think Jamal Williams is a different running back. He's more between the guards and short yardage and put your head down and pound.
He can catch the ball.
He can catch the ball, yeah, but I'm not looking at him primarily as a ball catcher out of the backfield. He's my 9th option. Right. When you look at all this offense on the team. Merriweather, I think he's just a practice squad guy who's getting an opportunity.
The question is Darrell Williams going to make the team or not?
Well, that's going to be tough.
Right. Is he going to make the team? Especially again with
like they say, it's hard to make the team when you're in the tub, Right. When you're not, best abilities, availability, and if he's not playing now, but they may say, it's not that bad of a groin injury, and maybe we take a chance on it because we know what we're getting here.
Jimmy Graham. Makes the team?
Absolutely.
Right. And a guy that I think, I've been talking about red zone. I think a lot of people believe that. I think he's a situational player for them, right?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, Juwan Johnson's your number one tight end. Foster Moore is probably number 2.
Right.
And then Jimmy Graham.
Right.
I think he's probably your top 2 target inside the red zone.
I agree.
Because he's a wide body, has that reach. I mean, I think we have a bet in the office right now on how many catches he have. I think I put 38.
Okay.
I think he's a legitimate target for this football team inside the 20s, and he's still a tough cover.
You need a first down, he can get a first down.
He's going against a nickel corner most times.
Right.
And he's bigger than that guy, and I'm throwing it up to him. That ball that Lucas Kroll dropped, Jimmy Graham doesn't drop that ball.
That's true. No, I agree with that. And so you'll line up in the red zone when Kamara's back, with Kamara in your backfield. If you want Williams was a touchdown leader last year. You've got Taysom Hill if you'd like to play him at quarterback, right?
It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Taysom.
Well, I think he's more a situational player, right?
He definitely is. I know he's listed as a tight end,
right? No,
but he's not getting many snaps at tight end.
No.
It's going to be interesting to see how they play him this year.
I think it'll be different than what we've seen. Okay.
I wonder if it will be the same as what we saw when Drew Brees played.
Right.
Where he's taking snaps from Drew.
Right.
But how many is he taking away from Derek Carr? I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Depends.
It's a good problem to have.
Red zone's going to be one, I think, where you put him because you have to. Because again, he's just such a dual threat there. But you got Thomas, you got Olave. I mean, look, you got a lot of red zone. They went from a team last year that had trouble scoring in the red zone. I think they've addressed that this year. They have players, if their players are healthy, that Who you double team?
Yeah, nobody. You can't.
Right.
You're man up.
Right.
You
got
it's going to be tough.
And I give them a.
And can the offensive line protect them?
That's the.
Give them time.
And again, not have the mistakes that plague this team with pre-snap penalties.
Right now, that's the biggest thing.
It is. We'll take a break. We come back. Going to touch on the defense. Got to talk about the kicking situation as well. There's a battle there, and then we're going to go to LSU, Tulane. And before we get out of here, we're going to talk a little bit about the Pels. There's some really good news out there as well. Juan Kincaid, sports director at Fox 8 Sports, is our guest. I'm your host, Eric Asher. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll hear from our underwriters, and we'll be right back.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Haitian Custom Shutters is locally owned and operated, specializing in interior and exterior shutters and window coverings, as well as awnings and patio covers. Acadian Custom Shutters offers American products with personal service and workmanship, serving the South Shore, North Shore, and Mississippi Gulf Coast. More information is available at 985-893-3119 or AcadianCustomShutters.com.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. With us today on the program, sports director at Fox 8 Sports here in New Orleans. That's Juan Kincaid. All right, Juan, let's talk some defense. Looks like the interior of the defense has been upgraded. Now, we'll find out more when they start playing again for real. But you like Shepard, Brzee, Saunders, Roach. Heflin's going to be a tough cut for you, maybe a guy that's going to be on your practice squad. At defensive end, the big question right now is what can Peyton Turner do? Yeah. Okay, because again, you like Jordan, you like Passigno, Granderson. Peyton Turner, you need another one. So Peyton Turner's going to be a question. Lalos may be a guy that's again on your practice squad. And I really liked what Kyle Phillips did, but he kind of disappeared last week because he's a guy who can play end and inside. How do you think the defensive front looks in terms of their interior and outside? Well,
it's like we said at the beginning of the show. I think they look better than what we expected them to. I think you've gotten better play from Shepard in there. Peyton Turner has flashed. Yes. And that's what you want. And he stayed healthy. Yes. And that's what you really want. Isaiah Foskey's been slow to come. I think he'll get there. Dennis Allen called him out after the game. He's got to do some things better. I expect him to do things better, he said. I just think this defensive line, for me, is the biggest question mark going into this season when you think about what they lost during the offseason. And, I mean, I don't say they have to play better because they didn't play badly last year, but this team needs to be able to get a pass rush without having to rely on special blitzes. Right. They've got to be able to get pressure on the quarterback with those front four guys, and they've also got to be able to stop the run. That's the number one. The number one thing. You got to make teams one-dimensional, and a lot of teams are harder to do it against than others. So I think so far so good in training camp, but I am a pump the brakes guy when it comes to this football team in training camp because I'm tired of everyone getting all hyped up over, oh, such and such a great blah, 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 blah. You're going against your own team who's running the same plays every day. You know what those plays are. Let me see what you do in a preseason game or in a regular season game when you guys have to do it for real against a team where you don't know anything about except what you've scouted. So we'll see. There is a question. Marcus May will be suspended somewhere between 1 and 3 games for DUI. Again, he pleaded no contest and took the probation. Is it Jordan Howden? Is it Jonathan Abram? Is it Smoke Monday? Are they bringing someone else from outside? At this point, I doubt that. Yeah. JT Gray, I love him as a special team player. I don't want to see him in the defensive backfield. Yeah. I don't know. Is it? I mean, again, you just don't know. And here's the problem, Eric. Last year when they signed him and they signed Tyrann Mathieu, those guys had very little time on the field together in preseason, and it showed in the regular season. It took some time, and someone was bragging to me, well, you know, Tyron had 3 interceptions last year led the team. I was like, that tells you all you need to know. That secondary was didn't have opportunities last year. They didn't create opportunities last year. When your main guy has 3 interceptions, those two need to play more together, and so here we go again, another season, and he's likely not going to be there. Hasn't been decided by the NFL yet, but you know something's coming. He's not going to be there again, and so that's 3 more seasons, 3 more regular season games where you don't have those two together. That continuity didn't to grow together. I don't know how they're going to solve it. Is P.J. Williams still out there?
Yes, he is.
Because I would love to bring P.J. back here and insert him back in there, because I think he's better than some of the guys they have back there right now.
I'm going to be honest with you. It's something I don't understand.
If he's in shape, then I'd take a flyer on P.J. Williams, because you know he knows the defense. You can slot him in there. He's going to be as good, if not better, than what you already have there now that's not as a starter, and move on. We only talk about a couple weeks.
Tackler.
And he's a sure tackler, and you know what you're getting.
Yep, I agree. All right, let's talk let's talk Lutz Groupie. Jeff Duncan reported, as part of your guys who are at Fox 8, your crew, this week, that there may have been some conversations with the Denver Broncos about the possibility of maybe trading Lutz.
Denver, that's odd.
To Denver. Peyton's only got 15 Saints players on his roster right now.
Staff.
Okay. Lutz or Groupie?
Well, oh man,
it's tough.
I mean, if you go based on what he did last year, then Groupie's your guy, because Lutz was terrible last year by his standards. But you got to believe that he's going to have a bounce back year and be really good. And so, do you want to let that really good go off to another team? They're not in your divisions. That helps you. I think Groupie's been really good in the preseason, but that's preseason. So for me, I'm sticking with Lutz. I think any kickers are a dime a dozen. I think you can find a kicker, just like you can find a running back that could be serviceable.
I'm with you. I would say with Lutz, you're going to cut Groupie. We'll see what happens at the.
But it depends on what you get in return.
Also. That's true. I mean, look.
If you get a 4th round pick, then I'm letting him go all day long.
If I get a 4th round pick, then you got to put the mask on when you accept it, because you just robbed them.
For real.
You know, yeah, I'm probably going with the guy that I know.
That you know.
And try to sneak him on the practice squad. If something happens, bring him up. If he gets picked off, he gets picked off. But he has been impressive. The kid really has been impressive. All right, let's go to LSU. I say what, I have a question from a viewer before we jump too far into the show and we get lost in the weeds here. Saints, LSU, Tulane. If they are healthy, which teams make the playoffs?
Well,
so we're talking about college playoffs now, okay, on LSU and Tulane.
Okay, well, then LSU and the Saints.
Right.
Tulane's not going to make the playoffs.
Okay.
Tulane's not going to get the benefit of the conference they play in. The conference is so much weaker now. We lost 3 big teams out of your conference from last year. They moved on. Tulane's the cream of that crop in the conference. That tells you all you need to know, how weakened that conference has gotten. So I think if Tulane ran the table and won all the games,
they wouldn't make it.
I don't think they would make it. Unfortunately, I think
maybe next year, when they expand, when was it 24 or 25, when they expand the playoffs, there's a place for Tulane.
Absolutely, when it's expanded, but not now. You're not getting top 4.
But they could get into a New Year's Six bowl.
They would do that. I mean, they just showed they playing the Cotton Bowl, so they've already made that.
They can do that.
And they lost early in the season and then ran the table. I think they can do that again. In fact, to me, that should be the least expectation from them. They should be saying, forget just the conference championship. Our team is built to win this and get to another New Year's 6-day bowl. But I think it's LSU and the Saints, without a doubt.
Yeah, me too. I do too. And again, that's no slight to Tulane. It's just, again, where they are, conference, where the NCAA is right now, where college football is right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's stay with Tulane since we're here.
Okay.
Willie Fritz has done a great job.
Yes, he has.
When you look at, first of all, the transfer portal, he's, sometimes it takes a while for a coach to figure it out, but he's figured it out, okay? Not only, again, a guy that has done really well in terms of upgrading the roster in terms of his recruiting, but giving guys that, again, have moved out of New Orleans to go, or Louisiana to go to another school that just hasn't worked out, to come back and come play at home. And it's really worked out. Those guys are going to ULL before, right? Yeah. They're going to Tulane now. It really comes down to the first 3 games. South Alabama, which again, by the way, is ranked in the top 30. I want to make sure everybody knows that. Okay, Ole Miss, top 25, and USM top 30. So again, they'll be playing against 3 teams in the top 30 preseason poll out of the box. Going to be a difficult start for the Wave, but again, they've got their returning quarterback. Their offensive line looks stout. They look better on the defensive line. People don't know about the running back position, but I'm telling you, they've got a stable of running backs.
He's kept a stable of running backs since he's been there.
He has.
Done a really good job recruiting that.
They're really good at wide receiver. They're young at tight end. They've got Machado, and they bring in Tyler Grubbs from Louisiana Tech at linebacker. Maybe
he was a stud.
He is a stud.
I don't think people understand how good he is.
He was great at Holy Cross.
Yeah, I don't think people understand how good he is.
And look, they've got some really good players at corner. Okay, maybe a question a little bit at the safety position, but they look like a pretty stacked team with Willie Fritz. Well, why don't you give me your thoughts on the Wave going into the season, and then talk about those first 3 games. They play Texas San Antonio at the end of the season. Okay, that's their last game of the season. Those first 3 games, that's a murderer's row for them.
It's a tough schedule, but if you're as good as everyone's saying you are, then go out there and prove that you're as good as everyone's saying you are. I think the biggest question mark for Tulane this year is something they've never had to deal with before: the expectations of winning the conference from the start. No one is putting any other team above them to start the season. How can they handle that? And no one thought they'd do what they did last year. No one saw that coming.
Right.
But now everyone's expecting that from them this year. And I believe the line is 7.5 against Ole Miss. I don't think Tulane can cover that, but we'll see. You know, you got them at home.
Right.
You win that South Alabama game, which I think they will. There's pressure on this team, though. Pressure unlike they've ever felt before. Before. And so, can they handle that? Can they handle being the hunter? And for me, that's the biggest thing with Tulane. It's not a question of talent. They've got the talent there. And Willie Fritz, I think, is a really good football coach, but a really good man. Just a really good, honest football coach and a man. And he's the right coach for that program. He's the one hire they got right at football finally.
But it stayed, right?
And
when he could have
stayed.
left.
Had a chance to go to Georgia Tech.
Right.
Realized Tulane's a better football job, believe it or not, than Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's not a great football job. It's a secondary sport that behind basketball and behind baseball. So I think the pressure's on him too. Okay, you've won. How can you handle success? And I think it's what we're all looking for. But I think Tulane's going to have a good season. I really do.
Right. Me too. I really do. I mean, again, I look at this depth chart too deep, and I say to myself, this is a pretty good team. Now, I think what you said really kind of sets the narrative. Can they handle success? Can they handle the pressure that's going to be on them? You know, is it a situation where you don't have that hangover from the Cotton Bowl? Because we've seen this in the past with Tulane teams, right? They read the press clippings, they get a little bit of a big head. Next thing you know, they drop to a game they shouldn't. USM last year that they shouldn't have done. Okay, so but I do think that where they're built, where you want a team built, they are strong. They are strong with the offensive line. They are strong with the defensive line, and they're strong at quarterback.
I mean, that's what you want.
Right.
And then they got good skill positions as well. But they're going to miss Tajay Spears. And it's going to take them a while, I believe, to fill that void. I think they've got the running backs to do that. But then you're asking other guys, skill player guys, you need to do more this year.
Right.
Because what you didn't do last year, Tajay made up for it.
He did.
I think on defense, they're going to miss Nick Anderson. They're going to miss Dorian Williams. Those are 2 studs that are on NFL rosters right now. They are studs. And so it's hard to replace those players. The kid out of UL Monroe, good player. He's going to help ease he's going to help ease that pain of losing those 2 guys. But they've got to see what that next tier of play that they had behind Williams and Anderson. What's that next tier of play? Are they hungry? Are they ready to fill those shoes? Those are big shoes to fill. I think defensively, those are the question marks you have with Tulane. But I think offensively, they're as talented as they were last year, but the talent at the running back position has to come in numbers and not just an individual player.
I agree with you. But they've done that. When Spears was hurt,
Shoddy Clayton was really good.
They had to go by committee,
they had other guys go by committee,
Right. Watch Arnold Barnes, kid out of Booker T. Washington, right here in New Orleans. This kid's going to be a player for them going forward. But
Willie talked about him.
Right.
They're going to have a problem keeping him off the field. And that's a great problem to have. And it's true freshmen.
Right.
Good Lord.
True freshmen.
Yeah.
It is, no doubt. And again, big things for Tulane.
But Eric, here's the thing. One thing we criticized Willie Fritz of, and I think he's stepped up and said, you know what, I agree, is when he first got here, and up until like 3 or 4 years ago, he hasn't done a good enough job of recruiting Louisiana kids. New Orleans kids has not done a good enough job doing that. Right. And now he's finally coming back around to doing that.
Well, so things are changing at Tulane.
Things are changing.
We've seen the locker room upgrades coming off that Cotton Bowl win. You've seen the Fear of the Wave collective. Again, there's only one reason Michael Pratt's here. Okay, yes, he loves Tulane, but they were able to get him the cash he wanted to stay, right? Otherwise, he'd be quarterback of the Gators right now. And then the other thing is now moving forward on that indoor facility on campus, that indoor practice facility that's going to be a bubble. This is huge for Tulane athletics. I think it's the next step.
I think it's ridiculous, and I get it. There's so little space up there,
right?
And their football team has never been this good before. So like, why put the money in this?
Right.
I get it, but man, them having to practice in their stadium, every practice, it's ridiculous.
No, and then the new turf at the stadium. Let's play that in there as well.
So,
which is good. But remember, the practice, the bubble can be used by all sports.
Absolutely.
Okay, they can use for baseball. They'll use for all sports. So it's a great next step for Tulane.
I would agree.
And if they're going, look, your ex-conference for the ACC, right? They're looking to expand. Maybe bringing in Cal. They're talking about bringing in Stanford. SMU saying you don't have to. I won't take any money. We'll come. Eventually, there's going to be another round of conference realignment, and Tulane has got to be prepared for that going forward.
I'm almost glad that Tulane didn't jump on going to the Big 12 when they rumor had the chance.
No doubt.
Now look at that conference now.
Here we go. All right, LSU. First of all, really, really tough news, and we really got to discuss this. Mason Smith is suspended for Game 1 against Florida State. Was involved in getting.
Autograph
signing. Got some. It was improper benefits, what they're calling it, for the signing him and Keishon Boutte the year before NIL was legalized in college football. Both those guys had the improper benefits. Keishon Boutte served his last year. Smith was out, so he couldn't do that. The thing that kind of blows me away is the NCAA insisting that it's got to be against Florida State. It's got to be Game 1. Normally, a school has the opportunity to say, okay, we're gonna suspend him, but we'll do the game we want to do. And then the other part of it is the hypocrisy of, again, it's legal now. But with that said, he's going to miss a game. Now, some are saying it's going to be horrible for him. Look, he didn't play last year. He's going to be a guy who's going to be on limited snaps anyway, to me. Yes, it hurts, but it's not going to kill you. They really have a good defensive line, but it just seems a bit of overkill at this point, to be punishing a kid for something that is now legal.
Yeah, well, it wasn't legal when he did it.
Good point.
And so I guess they got to go back and say, you know what, these were what the rules were when you did it, and they were illegal, and you should have known about it, and whatever the case may be. I think it won't be long before the NCAA is irrelevant when it comes to collegiate sports, because I think a lot of these big schools are going to start forming their own league and say, the heck with the NCAA, we can do it better than you guys can do it, and we can make more money doing it, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to money. I do think this team will find a way to work without him. They did it last year.
Right.
And they did okay. So while I think it's a big loss to have Mason Smith not playing, I think LSU has enough talent on that defense, especially in that front defensive 7, to figure it out for one game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, Savion Jones has played well. I mean, you can look down the line. They've got that's another position where they loaded up on transfers. That guys are going to make an impact for them this year on the defensive line. Wingo, I'm going to go right down the line from that point. They've been good. You want to make?
Well, I was going to say, having Mason Smith was a benefit. So they've got so much talent at that position right now, and then you say, oh, we also got Mason Smith coming back. Right. It wasn't like, I hope he comes back. We don't have much talent there. They had the talent there already, and so they're adding a good piece of Mason Smith to the party.
There's a lot of guys that, again, most people don't see practice, right? So when you see them in Game 1, you're going to go, oh, I don't know the number, I don't know the guy, but you're going to find out about it pretty quickly across the board. They have been, and even Tulane, I didn't really talk about that, but I want to mention this. Both have been pretty much injury-free through camp. I mean, again, it hasn't been a situation where, again, where they've lost a lot. Look, I'm knocking on for Micah. That's all I got. But they've been injury-free, which is good. Now, cornerback's still a question mark for this team right now. That's if there's a question mark on this LSU roster, it is the cornerback position. Zy Alexander was incredible last year at Southeastern. He is a bona fide starter for this team. Denver Harris has been in trouble. There's just, the other corner is still really up in the air right now. Deuce Chestnut, they moved Sage Ryan into that spot. He got hurt. Thoughts?
I just feel like the DBU ain't what it used to be.
No, it's not.
And that's shocking because this was always the place where the best defensive backs in the country said, you know what, I'm going to LSU because I know what I'm getting, and I know they're getting me to the NFL. Now that position is the weak link on this football team, and the only way they're going to get better is through repetition because there's no magic pill, there's no All-American walking in the door, and there's as a transfer to save the day for LSU secondary. So
when they try to do it, they
try to do it, but
they went to Syracuse, they went to Texas.
They had to settle.
Go Ohio State.
Yeah. Now the kid in Syracuse is a really good player, but they had to settle for certain players. That as transfers at cornerback because what they had there because of losses to the NFL wasn't good enough. I can't remember the last time LSU wasn't good enough at the cornerback position.
It's true.
And this is where they are now.
That's changing, though. If you look at the next two recruiting classes, what he has, again, committed, what he has, again, that are heavy leans.
In the pipeline,
they are going to be DBU again because they're going to be that good. Watch Ashton Stamps, the kid out of Rummel. You watched him again in high school. He's a good player. He's a guy that may come on. But they are a team that has great skill position players. They have a great offensive line. They have a great defensive line. You know, again, when you got Harold Perkins at linebacker, and again, and then you brought in Spates, the kid from Oregon State. You're really good at linebacker. They're going to be a tough team. The question is, can they take the next step? Can they challenge Alabama?
Can Jaden Daniels take the next step?
Can he?
Their situation, I feel like, is exactly the same as Tulane's. In that Jaden Daniels is a Heisman Trophy mention right now. He's in the running. So with that comes a lot more pressure to be better than what you were last year. I don't think anybody really knew what to expect from LSU last year. You were hopeful they'd be good, but you were bringing in a new quarterback. You had a quarterback battle between three guys, basically. Walker Howard's now gone. You have skill positions where you thought you had what you thought you had at wide receiver, didn't turn out to be that way. I mean, they didn't have as many receivers, big threat receivers last year as they probably have now. The running back position, it was like 5 guys. And no one was really stepping up. I feel like some questions have been answered about this offense going into this season. But the most amazing thing for LSU for me last year is the fact that at one time, and for the most part, they started 5 tackles on the offensive line. 5 tackles. And they converted some guys to center. I mean, that whole group's back. And they've got depth there. If you can do it on the offensive line, you can do a lot of things. And so the question goes to them, whereas with Tulane, it's about can you handle the pressure? With LSU, can Jaden Daniels handle the expectations that come with being a Heisman Trophy mention? Can he handle that?
That's a great point.
And if he can, this team will go a long way.
I agree. So funny, you made another great point because as you said it, I'm going, that's true. They do mirror each other, Tulane and LSU. Great skill position, wide receivers. You can see that. They're getting a lot of talent there. They're going to do running back by committee.
8 running backs.
Right. They're going to do running back by committee. Okay. So somebody's going to emerge, but they're going to do by committee. So the offensive line is strong. Defensive line is strong. They're strong at linebacker. You look again. The tight ends are going to be young, right? You got again. They got some young tight ends on LSU's team.
Mason Taylor's going to be a special player.
He really is, and they got some guys behind him that are going to be really good too. Okay, and then. You look across the board, in a foundation builder with their coach, right? Across the board, they do mirror each other this year. Now, again, they're different levels here, but they do mirror each other.
Well, you say different levels, but in terms of how many games you expect them to win this year, I've asked this question in the office. Who wins more games this year, LSU or Tulane? Who do you think? That's tough.
I think it's going to be tough because I think, again, depending on, how Tulane comes out the box here, they win their first 3 games, they got a chance to maybe go on, either lose 1 game or go undefeated. Okay? You look at LSU. Again, same thing.
If you look at LSU's schedule, you're saying the only game, Tiger fans will say the only game they should have question marks about is Alabama.
Right. They're going to say that.
Now, Florida State's a good team.
Come on, they're 8th in the nation.
That's going to be a good team.
They got a veteran quarterback.
Yeah, that's going to be a good first test for them. So I don't know who's going to win more games.
Right. going to be tough. But I will say this. I think this could be a special year for sports here in Louisiana and New Orleans.
Dude, listen, we didn't even talk about Southeastern and Nichols.
No,
Southeastern's probably going to win the conference.
Right.
Nichols is going to be better this year. I love Tim Rebowe, one of my favorite people. They're going to be better this year. This is going to be a really good year for football.
I'm telling you.
When we've had some years where it's been lean. It's been lean.
Across the board, I really agree. And I think also the Pelicans are going to be better. We'll see again how much better, but I think it'll be better. I know you're not bullish on them right now, okay? And look, I still think, again, when you bring in Cody Zeller and you tell me that's the guy that's going to solve your backup center problems, I got a problem with that. But I'm counting and I'm hoping that, again, Zion, C.J. McCollum, and Brandon Ingram are going to be healthy. They've got Brandon Ingram, Valanciunas, and Dyson Daniels playing the World Championships. Again, that'll get them ready for the season.
I'm disappointed they weren't able to move Valanciunas, and I love Valanciunas.
Me too. It'll probably be by the trading deadline is what they'll try to do. But again, if you're telling me you're going to get an athletic center and you give me Cody Zeller, that ain't what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. But there was a feel in the city this past week with, again, the release of the video, of the photos of Zion working out, being ripped. I didn't even mention on my radio show last week because I thought they were photoshopped. They're not. But I feel a little bit better. At least I know he's working out and getting in shape. You're a little bit more apprehensive on that, right?
I am.
You're not buying what they're selling.
I am, because I remember last year when these pictures came out of him looking cut, in shape, physical specimen of a man. And what happened? Hardly played at all last year. I want to see Zion on the court going through basketball motions, playing and staying healthy. None of this other stuff, this surrounding stuff about, he's looking cut, it's a photo, none of that matters. None of that matters. Is he in training camp on day one? Is he having problems with his feet? Is he physically ready to play basketball? Because what he's getting paid for, not to be a freaking magazine model or be looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I want to see him play basketball, and I want to see him on the court playing. I want to see where his game has gotten to in the offseason. What has he worked on? I want to see him. I want to see him coming into training camp healthy, ready to go from day one, and not David Griffin giving us an excuse on why they had to hold him out for this, that, and the other. That's what matters to me. All this other stuff, it's just other stuff.
Well, again, but when you're in their position, they have no choice. They got to tease the fan base with something at this point, right?
They're trying to sell tickets, and I get that, but I don't think this fan base is fooled at all either. This fan base is ready to get rid of him last year.
Oh, I know that's true. I would agree.
They were ready to get rid of him and see what they can get for him, and said, you know what? I'll ride with C.J. McCollum, I'll ride with Brandon Ingram, and I'll ride with the pieces you get me in return for Zion Williamson, because I think his fan base is tired. We're tired of talking about Zion being injured, can't get out on the court. We're tired of talking about Anthony Davis being injured, can't get out on the court. We're tired of losing these special players, these franchise players, for whatever reason, because they want to go to a bigger market, but they couldn't play here. Fans are tired of that.
No, I agree. You made a great point. We were talking about it in the break, too. Rather than just seeing those still pictures, you want to see him video, you want to see him working out, you want to see him shooting a basketball, you want to see him doing basketball things.
I want to see him doing basketball things and not him going between the legs and dunking for a camera for TikTok. That means absolutely nothing to me. I saw a video yesterday of Lonzo Ball.
Yes, me too.
Kind of messing with Stephen A. Smith by sitting up and, and Stephen A. came back, you know what, that's great you can sit up and down, but can you go play on the court?
Yes.
That's what matters.
It's true.
What can you give me on the court? I don't care about anything off the court. Basketball, not really. I don't care about any of that. Can you come play 82 games? Can you give me 41 games? Can you give me half the season? What can you give me?
Well, that's the problem. Again, if you could get 40 out of them, you'd be lucky. Hopefully, again, you're getting at least 60. Okay.
I mean, listen, when his teammates, C.J. McCollum, is calling him out at the end of the year, get on the damn court.
Well,
get on the court.
I think that has to be an awakening for everyone.
Absolutely.
In this organization, what C.J. McCollum did at the end of the season, and it needed to be done.
Zion's building his legacy right now, and his legacy ain't worth talking about.
He wasted the first 4 years of his career.
He's just been getting paid.
No doubt about it. Juan, thanks so much as always.
My
One
pleasure.
more time again, 10:35 each and every weekday. You got a great show over at Fox 8 and also on Sundays as well.
That's right.
There you go. Thanks for being with us.
Appreciate it.
That's Juan Kincaid, again, sports director at Fox 8 Sports. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. There's so many ways to catch our program now. Check the QR code on your screen. It'll take you right to my website, ericasher.com, with the WLAE-TV YouTube page. And just set your DVR. Do what I do for Juan's show, okay? I set my DVR and I never miss the show. So set the DVR on your favorite rebroadcast and you'll never miss the show. All right, want to remind everybody, 106.1 FM, 4 to 6 weekdays. That's where the radio show is. iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, our digital platforms. ericasher.com is where you can also catch our podcast. Our podcast is also on the Apple Anchor app and all major podcasting platforms. Want to thank our underwriters who make this show possible. Couldn't happen without them. We're approaching our 10th year on this program, and again, these underwriters have kept us going, so we appreciate that. Also want to thank Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Logan Rafia, Alex Chacon, Danielle Wick, and of course our director William Hill, and all the great folks here at WLAE-TV. For Juan Kincaid, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.